right here, and we've got a rock chip. And this video is going to be how to properly repair that. I will be using this Permatex kit. It comes with just about everything you need, and it's a one-use kit, single use, but it includes not only the pressure, but it includes vacuum, which I think is important to make it work. What the kit doesn't include is some painter's tape and some paper towels, but you probably have those. The instructions are pretty good. So you may notice I have a thermometer here. The bottom number is the indoor, and it's 74 degrees. This kit is made for 50 Fahrenheit to 75 Fahrenheit, which is 10 Celsius to 25 Celsius. If it is colder than that where you are and you can heat up the car, that'll warm the windshield up. If it is warmer than that, you can turn the air on and cool it down. Be sure it is in the shade. When you do this, be sure it is in the shade, because the resin will harden via UV light. In other words, sunlight or a UV flashlight, that type of thing. The hole size, maximum 1¼ inch diameter. This is for windshield fish eyes, like rock chips. As far as where on the windshield you can use this, this is the pedestal. Your pedestal is over the edge, then you're getting really close. If the chip is touching the edge of the windshield, you shouldn't use this. It's going to crack, and that will become a safety hazard. Also, if you've got electronics on your car, lane keep assists and cameras and all the new gadgets, if it's in there, you're not supposed to use it. You can still try, I suppose. This is a good time to give my standard disclaimer. This is what I'm doing. I'm generally following directions. I have done this before. Works fine. But do this at your own risk. This is for entertainment purposes only. So when putting the paper towel, try not to get any lint in this area. The resin is going to run down. So in this case, I got to watch the side and the bottom. It's going to want to run downhill. So using the push pin that they provide, you want to dig out any loose pieces of glass. They provide an alcohol prep pad. Save the little pouch. You're going to clean the area. About a 2-inch diameter around it with the prep pad. Try to make sure alcohol gets in there. There you go. And now put it back in that pouch. They don't tell you in the instructions, but you will need this again. Be aware that the resin, if it gets on anything else, it's going to stick. If it gets on your paint, it's going to stick. You don't want that. That's why you saw I had all these towels around. Nothing's going to get on it. Also, for the chip, if you're having trouble seeing it, and yours is in a more central location than mine, you can take some painter's tape, tape it on the inside so that you can get a better view of it. So the crack is right there. I put some tape in there just to demonstrate. So hopefully you can see it. It's a pretty small one. So the next step is you're going to take the adhesive disc and you're going to put it around the chip, centering the hole in the primary spot of the chip, which is generally the center. I like to do mine just a tad on the high side because the air is going to want to rise. It's going to want to float up. The tab, try to get it facing uphill. So your windshield may be angled like mine, so it's not going to be like this. This would still work okay, but trying to go here. Also, there's a white side and a green side. I don't know why. The green side, the white side will just peel off. The green side, though, will literally pull. Now, I have tried both sides, and I find it easier to pull the green side off at this point. Don't touch this area if you can help it, and leave the white side on to pull off later, because if you leave the green side, it literally will try to pull the adhesive off the windshield, so you can get air bubbles. So I'm placing, what I do is I bend it like so, center it, bring the bottom down, and then bring the top down, and start in the middle, work your way around. You don't want any air bubbles. Don't worry about this. Try to work any air bubbles out. You'll probably want to look underneath. If yours is in a better location than mine, you can look from the inside and see if there's any air bubbles. When doing this, don't get anything in, don't put your finger in there. You don't want greases off your hand. It helps if you've washed your hand recently with soap. And so don't get anything inside on that windshield spot, because that's where the resin needs to be able to adhere to the glass. Once you got that taken care of, you're going to peel the white side off. Now, you saw the green, hopefully. Now watch the white. Boom. Yeah, I don't know why they have the two different colors. They're two different materials. It is what it is. Pedestal. Make sure this is clean. Again, try not to touch this. And you're going to line it up. That's why they have the tab on here, so you can see how to line it up. Center it nicely on the adhesive pad, because you need this, the stem part, to line up with that hole as much as possible. You know, don't go crazy on it. Don't worry too much about the tab. Now you're gonna, again, press firmly. Try to make sure there are no bubbles in here. Now when I say press firmly, don't press so hard that you make the crack worse, or I shouldn't say crack, the chip. This doesn't work on cracks. So that you crack the chip, how's that? Alright, so yeah, kind of work this. This one you can't look on the inside to see if you have bubbles, so try to get it on. And I actually forgot, what I try to do is the same thing I did with the adhesive pad, because this has a line here and a line here. Try to hold those up, don't break it, but just kind of bend it a little bit, attach it in the middle, and then bring these down. But no big deal. So now we're starting to get serious. Have your resin, and it says to remove the cap, and that you can replace it. No, not at all. So you're going to do, you're going to twist. Don't do this over your paint. See, I don't know if you can see, I got a little tiny bit came off on my finger. That's why you got paper towel. Set this aside, not on your paint. Squeeze a little resin. You're actually going to fill up the pedestal area with this resin. I will tell you that it seems to like air bubbles. Okay, so mine is right at the top. I've poked the tip of this down in there to try to break up any air bubbles. Save this. So now, get to work with the syringe. And you will want a timer. I guess I should have said that at the beginning. But with the syringe, you'll notice there's a little clip thing here. You'll notice there are, that doesn't help, indents in here. And this should be all the way in. You're going to press this firmly into the pedestal. The base here needs to be all the way down. Turn it so hopefully you can see. It's kind of white behind there, but holding the body, you're going to pull up and turn and when you get to there, it'll snap in. Be sure to turn it so it's fully locked. You now have vacuum. That vacuum is ideally pulling the air out of this. Set your timer for 10 minutes. Be sure to set your timer. If you're like me, you're going to say, oh, I'll pay attention for 10 minutes and then I'll be distracted by something else. Forget about it. If yours is in a better spot, you should be able to go inside the windshield and see the bubbles. One thing with these bubbles will tend to stick to surfaces. So you can flick the windshield. If you have access on the inside, flick the inside right there under the chip. This is a laminated glass. There's basically a plastic film between two layers of glass. The inside glass is probably not cracked or chipped, and you can flick it. You can tap, whatever you want to do. Don't break your glass, don't make the chip worse. But it's little vibrations. Don't knock the syringe off. 7.5 minutes left. The fresher the chip is, the less likely it is to have dust, dirt, pollens, and stuff inside it. So you should be able to, you're more likely to get a clean fix if it's a fresh one. If it's been sitting around for a couple years, you probably got some dirt in there and it won't actually be 100%. It'll still help and it might even stop it from spreading, but your likelihood is less. So it's been 10 minutes. So per the instructions, at this point, with this still locked, you're going to hold the base of the syringe, turn it, pull it up. This, you now have air in the syringe. You're going to put it, this releases the vacuum is what you're doing. Now you're going to put it back on. This time you're putting pressure. You're trying to compress. You should feel a little bit, and it is just a little bit. And let it click on this higher indent. Now you're supposed to leave it for 20 minutes. Be sure to set your timer. And you can tap on it, flick it some more. So we are at the part So we've gone through the vacuum. We're now at the pressure. We can see that. And if we look up under here, you'll see where the crack was. It's now appears to be filled. At least you can barely tell where the crack was. There's still a little tiny air bubble at the top. The key on this, make sure you have enough resin. If you need to add resin between the phases, do it. You can add resin between those phases. Make sure you've put enough in. Between them, I actually added more resin. Then I pulled some vacuum just for a minute, tapped. Then I put it back on, released, put it on, and I'm back into the pressure, and I'm waiting that 20 minutes. Because what I saw was that it didn't look like it had enough resin. I could still see that little chip. Now I don't. I'm feeling much better. There's still that air bubble, but that air bubble should be taken care of later in the process. But it is nice to have a smaller one. Tap as long as you need to, or your finger can stand it. Don't use a hammer. That'd be bad. Spend 20 minutes. I am pushing just a little bit. This is me. Instructions say to pull this off. I am pushing just a little bit. Don't push too much where you are going to bust out the crack or the adhesive. I'm just doing this. If yours looks good on the bottom, then you're good. Don't worry about it. And mine looked pretty good. So we pulled the syringe out. This is where you can see how well it's going. The air pocket, the air bubble, it's gone. The crack appears to be filled. The little tiny crack that was there. I can still see where it was, but it looks to be filled. That means it's good. If you need to add more resin, add more resin. The resin is probably the biggest issue people run into, is they didn't put enough in, because the air gets trapped on the bottom of that pedestal, and the resin doesn't go down all the way. It just sits on top of that air pocket. So this next step is using the razor. Don't cut yourself. I'm not responsible if you cut yourself using a razor. You're gonna pull this off. Now this is where you want this, because the resin might run down. But you want to use the razor, work your way around. When you get down here, this is where the resin may start coming out the side, out the bottom. Don't scratch your paint if you're close here. Keep working it. See all that resin on the blade? I should have had an extra paper towel. And see how it's running down? But that's why you get towels. That's why you have paper towels. Wipe off any residual resin from the glass. Here's the thing. Don't get lint in there. Residual, you can wipe, make sure it's not running down and that type of thing, but do not wipe where the the chip was. The next step is to remove the cap. Well, as I already discussed, there is no cap. You're going to take what they call the curing strip, which is really just a clear piece of plastic. I can hardly see where this was. Put just a little bit of resin on top of that. And all this does is make sure you have enough so that you can level the chip. If your chip is bad, this is what's going to get that top part. And then you want to, without touching that other side, put your curing strip on it. Then work it like so. So what this curing strip is doing is it's creating a flat surface and holding the resin hopefully level with the windshield. We now have to remove the mess from your vehicle if you're inside like I am. Bring it out, put it in the sun. It takes 15 minutes for this to cure in direct sunlight. If you're in the shade and outside, it says it takes 1 hour. I would go at least 1 hour. So it's been about 16 or so minutes. This can set a little longer than 15 in direct sunlight, and it actually says for the 1 hour, at least 1 hour is required on cloudy days. You want to make sure that this is set. Don't go crazy and leave it set for hours in the direct sunlight, but it says 15 minutes. It's been about 16, going on 17 now. Next step, using your safety razor carefully. You're going to work your way around. And it shouldn't be too hard. Try to avoid the actual chip location. And I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure that this was completely dry. Yeah, or set, I should say. Cured. I think it was barely cured. So what we're going to do now, working towards where the chip was, just kind of try to scrape up some of this. And I'm liking what I'm seeing because it's really hard to tell where the chip was. So that's a good sign. Now remember what I said about the alcohol prep pad. You're going to use that again. If you can get it out of the package. Hopefully yours is still damp. And you're going to use this to wipe off that resin. So there is from inside. I wish I could point to it for you right there. But it's still got a little spot on it. It looks pretty good. It's just got that little ding in it, and I think that was because it wasn't fully cured when I took it off, even though I waited like 17 minutes. So I suggest waiting at least 20 in direct sunlight just to be safe. I've used this kit before. I didn't have to wait the 20 minutes, but on this one I probably should have. It is still better than it was. So the final result right there. Much better than it was for less than $15. Just got that little mark compared to the rock chip that it was before. Can't complain too much. Back inside the garage so you can see it compared to the start. It's definitely better. So I hope this was helpful. If so, please like, subscribe, comment, and good luck with yours.